What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the importance of Gotham Knights in the DC Games ecosystem and how much more important it became as the game first got unveiled and even to this point. And the reason I'm doing so is because Marvel right now is at a pace that it almost makes it really interesting to see what DC has in stock, if you get what I mean. Just recently, we had 3 recent confirmations of Marvel games in development. Just yesterday, we had one on Iron Man, we had one on Black Panther a while ago, and then with Skydance Studios, we had a Captain America Black Panther fusion type game. I remember in my video yesterday on Iron Man, somebody said Iron Man is not an interesting character, especially from a perspective where his former games flopped, and then the person told me to stop clickbaiting and find content. Sometimes I like to drag some really silly comments out in the open and basically just get rid of them, because Iron Man, in my opinion, is actually a very solid character. And if you were to go by that measure, there are Batman, Spider-Man games as well, and other superhero games that did not do well when they were first released until much more recently. Arkham really did put the Batman games on the map, as well as Spider-Man of 2018 putting Spider-Man on the map, because the other games had just been, in a sense, mass-produced by Beanox and Activision when they had the licenses. And those games didn't really have too much of a general appeal, like, say, the Spider-Man game of 2018. That game really changed the entire way and, the perspective that people viewed superhero games. Arkham was already doing the work, in a sense, not saying that, there was anything too revolutionary, but you can't deny that these two games, had other video games that preceded them, and they pretty much made some really, really huge impact on the community. So what is going on here, and how is Gotham Knights, in a sense, very important as we stand? Well, the last time we got to see a game in the DC community in terms of DC video games was Injustice 2. Injustice 2 was a fighting game, so very limited on how you could actually set up the game and, in a sense, tell the narrative and all, because the game would have to focus on fighting mechanics and all of the above. It did a good job in presentation. NetherRealms, they're very good at making these story aspects of their games. Now, their community will yell as to, the content of the story and, the plot lines that they follow and so on and so forth. But I think at the end of the day, they were able to deliver a game, and then everybody else has just been sitting pretty in regard to their own studios. Now, Gotham Knights on its own was one of those unique games. After it got revealed, a lot of us were having these conversations surrounding the game, but then we didn't really have too many Marvel games that had been showcased at the time. I think it was after the reveal of Gotham Knights or before that we had just seen Marvel Spider-Man 2. I can't remember exactly the timeline. One thing I feel was at this time or previously, the DC Warner Brothers IP managers, those are the leaders in Warner Brothers, I don't think they were necessarily the best judge of using or utilizing these characters to make products that would appeal to their audience members. Their track record is not necessarily the best. If you go back and look at, say, a few steps that they took or missteps, you'll see that they were almost out the back foot at every given time, especially when Marvel was in the cinematic universe already winning in terms of numbers and, box office revenue and all of the above. DC seemed to not have anything that it wanted to deal with. And I think the corporate suits there were just not, in terms, visionaries compared to, say, people like Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau and all of the others that were writing and actually helping produce and direct at Marvel. Now, granted, Marvel right now is not at the quality that it was at that time. And I think the pure reasoning towards that is just hunger. There doesn't seem to be the hunger anymore. If you think back, say, at the time of Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, you could tell that Marvel was very hungry. That movie was just well made regarding the story, the plot, and everything. They came wanting to just win. I watched that movie on a plane coming from Nigeria to the United States, and that movie blew me away. I was just sitting there on a very tiny screen and going, I cannot believe they depicted Tony Stark on screen. It was just one of the craziest things I'd ever seen, in that capacity. And so Marvel had that vision and they've been running with it. And it seemed like DC has not been able to settle, or had not been able to settle on a vision. And so even when the Arkham games finally released and showed them the roadmap, it didn't seem like the execs wanted to really pursue that angle in terms of their video game making. But right now, with all of these, it seems Gotham Knights is just finding itself in a strange position. These developers over at Warner Bros. Montreal, and I think they're some of the more sincere developers in the way they've been able to present and showcase their game and wanting to make a game that's true to themselves, they find themselves in a very important position because before we see another DC game, we have no calendar date so far. We just have a calendar year for a game like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which even makes it a lot more, heart-wrenching or a lot more unnerving, however it is you want to categorize it, when you kind of think about all of these different possibilities and how, the Suicide Squad game doesn't really have anything that we know about it in terms of, the comparison to, say, Gotham Knights. Now, granted, it is going to probably be coming out in June of next year, but still, it was a game that was announced for 2022 with no date in mind, and now has been pushed to 2023. Some people can hypothesize and say, possibly the game has already been finished. They're just waiting for Gotham Knights to finish its own circuit, which I can understand. And then after we hear from Gotham Knights and from Hogwarts Legacy, who's coming out in February next year, then it seems Suicide Squad is going to continue its marketing. But right now, I think that DC Games is on the back foot. Now, we can also make the argument of quality versus quantity. We spoke about that in the comment section. Me and some of my audience members, we were talking about this yesterday. And yes, DC does have quality, but for the most part, that quality can only remain from their older games, for such a long time before it eventually starts to get outdone. I mean, you think about, say, Marvel Spider-Man in terms of sales, that really did blow the Arkham series out of the water, even though we would tell you, and most people who want to be objective will tell you, that the Arkham City game is objectively just a better game because it set the tone and all, but you cannot necessarily continue to dwell on your past accolades. If we even wanted to go that route, Insomniac has also been in the business for such a long time. So yes, they do have the experience, but they're not sitting there dwelling on their past games like, the old Ratchet and Clank and the other games that they made in the past few years. Instead, they're moving forward with innovation and having a production cycle that is actually a very good ROI. Sony is literally banking so much on the fact that this studio is able to produce very effectively and efficiently. Most other studios so far have not been able to do anything of that nature. If we think about, say, Batman Arkham Knights 2015, 7 years ago, we haven't seen anything from the studio yet. Even Warner Bros. Montreal, this is going to be their very first game. Can you imagine this being your very first game that you're making independently? Yet you've been a studio that has made a previous game under the Arkham banner, and the last time you made that game, or that game was produced, was in 2011 or so, 2013. I can't remember exactly the date. Sorry, I don't want to mix anything up in this video, so somebody help me in the comment section. And so that's really interesting as to the management of resources and, the talent that they have, like what has been going on all this while. I'm guessing that when we see the game, it eventually tell us, or at least maybe confirm, or, maybe dispute our concerns that we've had, that this publisher, in regard to their interactive entertainment, has been sleeping at the helm of the wheel. We do have new management now. I don't know what it is that they're going to do. I'm not saying that they're going to do a better job, but it seems to me that they're not playing around anymore. Any IP that doesn't seem to meet those standards, if you look at, say, the Batgirl movie that was already shot and shelved, I think they're probably going to respond. And I think it's time for Warner Brothers to start to license some of their IPs to other developers out there. There are a lot of developers out there that will be happy to make a licensed game and take full advantage of a lot of the superheroes that are available for them out there. It will be a big risk, but I think that's something that a lot of, developers and publishers will be happy to take on. So that's pretty much my video. I really want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think Gotham Knights is positioned in an important state right now? I think it is. And do you think it will be able to at least hold its own when it comes to this entire cycle of other games? Not saying it will compare to games like Spider-Man 2. I'm not that naive, but I want you guys to basically comment on this particular aspect of the game. So thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate your time and audience. Hopefully we'll speak pretty soon. Peace out.